Pre-com, this is Cessna 2600 Quebec. Radio check, please.
You're loud and clear.
Thank you very much. Okay, and then our practice frequency is 122.17, so if ever we're out in the practice area, we'll switch over to 122.17. We can monitor the other people in the air and kind of coordinate with them, so it's a safety issue there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and our beacon's on. I'm going to turn our navs on, and this is your dome if you needed it at night, and then your taxi, and then your landing lights there. Okay, so all of those, your carb heat, your throttle, your mixture, your wing flaps, your cabin air. This is your transponder, radios, GPS like I was saying before, RPMs, amp meter, and Haas meter and all that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get us out of this area of the airplanes, and then I'm going to have you start taxiing as we're on our way out.
Sounds good.
Fault traffic, Cessna 108 turning left crosswind 27 at fault.
Want to do that? Okay, we're going to run up through our before takeoff. Okay. So, I don't know how it got on this one already. Okay, right here. So we want start engine and then before takeoff. Parking brake set, so that's our toes. Make sure your toes are on those brakes. Cabin doors closed and latched. Mine's closed and latched. Yours is closed and latched. Good to go. Flight instruments are set. There we go. Okay, fuel shutoff valve is on. We're on. Our fuel's here. See that? Up is off and sideways is on. Okay? It's right down there. Okay, flight control's free and correct, so we bring these back. We look at the elevator back there. Everything's looking good there. So take a look at that. Good, good, good. And then we want to check our ailerons here. Everything's looking good with that. So we're good to go that way. And then we'll go ahead and also another thing is aileron up. See, your thumbs up, and then aileron up. That aileron should be up in that part there. Okay, and then mixture is rich. This is our mixture. It's full rich. Elevator trim to take off, and our trim is right here, and we want it in that white tab place there. See there?
Okay.
For takeoff within the white piece there.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then throttle set to 1700 RPM. So our brakes are set. We remember that once again, and we bring our throttle to 1700 RPMs. Once we're at 1700 RPMs, we're going to check the mags. Okay, so we take this key here and we click it twice. 1, 2. Now we're checking the right mag here. We see the drop in RPM. Okay, we got the drop in RPM. Now we're going to click it back to the both. 1, 2. Okay, now we're going to put it back onto the left mag. So click it once to the left. Checking that, got the drop in RPM. Good there. And back to both. There, now we have the increase once again, okay?
Got it.
Now, once we check that, we're going to check the carburetor heat. This is this one right here. So go ahead and we'll pull this, pull it back. We get the drop once again in RPM and push it forward, okay? And then instruments and amp meter, we check over here. We check our amp meter, turn on the lights, see there? And then watch this. When I turn on the landing lights, see that jump? I mean, it's reading that power, so that's good. Okay, all of our instruments are in the good green. Oil temperature, oil pressure, that's good there. Suction gauge is good, and then we need to go ahead and throttle back to 1000 RPMs. Okay, down to 1000. Radios are set, strobe lights as desired, throttle, friction lock, adjust, and then we'll do our brake release. Now, for normal takeoff, wings flaps at 0 to 10 degrees, we do 0. Carb heat is cold, it is cold. Throttle will be full, and then elevator control lift nose wheel at 50 knots. This airplane is in knots, okay, so it's not miles per hour. 50 knots, and then climb out at 65 to 75. I recommend 75, so it'd be right up in here, okay?
That's when we back and take off at 75 knots.
That's not when we pull off. When we lift the nose wheel, is around 50 knots. Yep, at 50 knots, we're just going to apply the pressure slight back. Don't pull it. Don't let the airplane fly itself off of the runway. I don't like to fly the airplane off the runway. I let it fly off. So I just lift the nose wheel at 50 and then let the airplane pick up that airspeed, and then it'll pick up when it wants to. Then once it picks off, we'll lower the nose to climb out. Don't push the nose forward.
Right.
So literally, you're just going about a half a degree to a degree down, that'll pick up that speed so that when we get out of ground effect, then it'll continue to climb out at VY, our desired climb out, instead of VX. Okay, and then we'll get into all the short field and all that other stuff at another time. But that's your normal takeoff right there, and then we can either put the list here, or if you want to go over some more stuff, we can do that as well. Okay, we have a guy turning final here, so we're going to go ahead and sit here and wait for a little while. Okay. There they are, landing. I don't see anything here, so I'm going to clear on the left, and we have that airplane landing on the right, so I'm going to go ahead and taxi into position, so we'll make our announcement. Hey, Griffith traffic, this is Cessna 2600 Sierra Quebec, taxi into position, runway 26, Griffith. Alright, still clear on the left, and that airplane, it looks like he's doing touch and go on 26, our eye on him. Right, follow along with me on the controls right here. I'm going to have my hand right on this as well, and then I want you to go ahead and put your hand right on that throttle there, and then I'll be right here with you, but I want you to follow along with it, alright? So we are good here. We'll go ahead and line this one up, and I'm going to go ahead and announce our takeoff. Griffith traffic, this is Cessna 2600 Sierra Quebec, departing runway 26, Griffith. Alright, we'll release the brakes. My brakes are released. And what it's going to do is it's going to have a left turning tendency, so we're going to have to push a little bit of right rudder pedal in, and then we also have a little bit of winds out of the south, so we might have to have some aileron control in. So go ahead and push it full forward on the throttle and leave it in. Just push it full forward in. Alright, and we keep it right in the center with our feet, remember? So, and then keep your hand on there, keep your hand on the aileron, because we want to fly it and pick it up. Airspeed's coming alive, we're at 50, so we just let that nose rotate up. Okay, and then we just slightly lower it till we get to 75, and climbing out at 75. Alright, keep your hands on the flight controls. Try to keep it at 75. Pitch plus power equals performance, so if we're going a little faster, what we do is pitch up, okay? And take this hand and just set it right down here, okay? We fly it with one hand and then loosen up a little bit, loosen up a little bit. You're really tense, okay? So just, and that's to be expected, I was tense too when I first started out. But just fly it nice and loose. See how I can fly it with two fingers here? Literally, the airplane will fly with two fingers. It wants to do what you want it to do. It's us people that make it do stupid stuff. So the airplane wants to listen to you, it wants to obey you. It's just climbing out. Once we get to about 1200 here, then we're going to turn out and go to the practice area. And once you get more altitude, things start slowing down, and it makes it a little bit easier to fly. I'm going to turn a little bit of this heat off because I'm getting hot. If you start getting cold, let me know. Most likely the students are hotter than the instructors, though. So only time I get hot is when the fan in the front shuts off. It doesn't happen, though. See how we're getting a little bit of that sink? What we'll do is just bring a little bit of pressure back and keep it right on the horizon there, and you'll get it back.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was doing the turn a little steeper than the last time.
Yep.
That's probably why I lost all that altitude.
Yep, the steeper the turn, the more back pressure you're going to have.
Right, right.
Alright, we have some wind out of the south. So you notice how you're sliding across and you keep on getting pushed to the north? What we're going to do to correct that is we're going to do what's called crabbing the airplane. Okay? So even though we're headed to the west and you're doing a good job on your heading, when we have winds from different directions, they'll push us somewhere. So let's say we wanted to just fly directly to the west and not get blown. We want to stay on a heading, okay, and we don't want to get blown north of our course like we're getting blown right now.
Right.
So we're holding the heading bug on a west, which is good, like I told you to do. But we're actually, you notice how the roads in front of us, how we keep on getting to the north side of them. We started out on that road over there. Now we're almost to this center road, okay? Well, the way we can correct that is by doing what we call crabbing, okay? So I have the airplane for a second, you follow along on the controls with me, and I'm going to go ahead and switch right over to this road. I'm going to descend down to about 1,700 feet so we can see our road a little bit better, okay? See that road that I'm aiming for right there?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, now the winds might not be as strong down here, so hopefully we can still demonstrate this pretty well. Okay, but we're coming in on our road, and if I held just a west heading, watch how that road is starting to creep across my dash now. Started out on the right side, and it's almost already to the center of the airplane. So what are we going to do that? What we're going to do is called crabbing. Okay, so we just bring that little bit of left aileron down into that wind. So what I mean by left aileron down would actually be this aileron goes up, but the yoke on the left goes down. So a little bit of yoke down on the left. I don't want to confuse you that way because I did confuse one of my students that way. So a little bit of left yoke down that way, or a little bit of aileron up, okay? And see how that keeps it right there? And then obviously we keep the ball in the center so it's nice and coordinated, okay? And just a little tiny bit. So yes, we're off the heading by maybe 2 or 3 degrees on our west heading, but we're actually tracking exactly west now.
Carburetor heat on.
Okay, well, when we do the carburetor heat, we're going to do it as soon as we get adjacent to the numbers here. So that's coming up. There's 3 things that we're always going to do before our landing right here, okay? And that's these 3 things right now. Once we get to adjacent to the end of the runway, we're going to pull carb heat, we're going to reduce power, so about 17, 18 right in there on the RPMs, and then we're going to start our descent. Okay, so those 3 things, carb heat, throttle, and nose down, or in descent. Okay, now what we're going to do is continue that descent until we get it to 45. So look out there, and we're about at 45 right now, so we're going to go ahead and turn it. And Bolt Field, this is Cessna 260 Sierra Quebec, left base for runway 27, Bolt. Okay, and right along with me, I do have the airplane, but I want you on the controls as much as possible, coming around. And we're going to go ahead and put 10 degrees of flaps on in the base leg. Okay, we're checking right to make sure that there's no traffic there. We always make sure that we're within the white arc when we do that as well, before we bring the flaps on, which we are. Checking for traffic over here, and then we're turning final. And Bolt Field, this is Cessna 260 Sierra Quebec, final runway 27, Bolt. Okay, and remember we have the winds out of the south, so we'll actually be carrying a little bit of that crab to keep ourselves center, all right? And then go ahead, and now that we're on final, we're going to bring in 20 degrees of flaps. Okay, then we have an aim point. See those numbers there? That's our aim point. So we're keeping the airplane in the descent, and those numbers don't look like they're moving. That's because we're on a stabilized approach, okay? If we are not on a stabilized approach, look how the numbers go away. See, if I pick the nose up, we're not on a stabilized approach. Or if I go down like that, the numbers aren't stabilized. We don't want to see that. Okay, let's pick those white stripes and we'll make that our aim point. And the aim point is what we put the nose towards, and then we're going to land just beyond our aim point. So now, see those 2 white stripes? They're not moving because I've got it stabilized.
Right.
Okay, and we're bringing power back and keeping it in that descent. Okay, so we're still crabbing into that wind at this point. So how are we going to transition out of that? We're going to put left wing down and a little bit of right rudder pedal, and that's going to go ahead and descend us and land us right in the center of the runway. Feel how that one touched down first, and then the next one touched down, and then we maintain the runway heading. Okay, we keep it coming down here. Don't let off on the correction. We're actually going to add more correction in as we're losing airspeed so we don't slide across that runway. You see? Okay, and then once we're down, we just let it roll out. I haven't had to hit the brakes at all, have I?
No.
Okay, don't cram on the brakes. We had a guy, he just gotten his license, and he failed to remember that, and with all these ice patches that we're getting on these runways this time of year especially, he crammed on his brake when he had tons of runway left. He crammed on his brakes, hit an ice patch, slid right off, hit one of the snowbanks, rolled the airplane over. He lived, he's fine, but the airplane will never fly again. Okay, so we don't want to do that. Just roll out. Now obviously I'll teach you how to do a short field landing where you will apply brakes steadily, but there's no need to ever cram on the brakes. Okay, so we go ahead and go into this turn here. Now notice here we've got some of this water coming across here and ice patches here, so we'd be very careful on the brakes here. And full traffic, this is Cessna 260 Sierra, Quebec, clear of runway 27, full. Okay, now it's completely your airplane. My hands are completely off of it, and I want you to just go ahead and taxi us all the way back down to runway 27. Full traffic, this is Cessna 260 Sierra, Quebec, departing runway 27, full. All right, we're clear on the right, clear on the left, so go ahead and taxi into position, and go ahead and do a regular takeoff. So there will be full power, keep that longitudinal axis of the aircraft paralleling the runway.
8 to the east at 2,500. It is a little south of the field. We're headed in for runway 27, full traffic.
And then full power, and fly right off, lift the nose wheel about 50, and then once we come, fly off of the runway, we'll lower that nose down and climb out at about 75, 80.
All
right, so full power. And I'm right here with you, so go ahead and push that all the way in, all the way in. Okay, and then we want to keep right in the center. Keep that hand right on the throttle, keep it pushed in so we don't want it to roll out. Okay, and then let's get in the center of the runway. So how do we do that? With our rudder pedals.
Rudder.
Okay, a little bit of rudder pedal there, see there?
Right.
Airspeed's coming alive, lift the nose up, go ahead and lift the nose. There we go, and then bring it, let that nose down just a hair right there, and then crab into that wind, and then nice, good takeoff right there. See that? And then climb right off.
All right.
Okay, we're about at our 45, so we're going to turn our base. Griffin traffic, this is Cessna 260 Sierra, Quebec, and we're left base for runway 26, Griffin. Okay, we're looking out here, making sure our traffic's good here. Our airspeed is very good there, so we're within our white arc, so we go ahead and put our 10 degrees of flaps in on our base. And always remember your crabs while you're doing your pattern. Obviously, we have the wind out of the southwest there right now.
Full traffic, Cessna 108, left crosswind 27 volt.
And looking over here, we're still clear here, so we're going to go ahead and turn our final. It's always better to turn sooner than later with the final.
Makes sense.
We don't because if we overshoot it, then we're cutting back and we're doing a steeper turn while we've got flaps on and while we're low and slow.
Right.
Griffin traffic, this is Cessna 260 Quebec, final runway 26, full stop, Griffin.
Full traffic, Cessna 108.
And a couple little bumps here.
Yeah.
Potholes in the sky. Thermals bouncing back. And remember, we want to do our nice stabilized approach. So our 2.6 right there, as we're coming in, we should just be keeping it right there on our nose. And it shouldn't be going up and down and all around and so on. Obviously with the airplane bouncing it does a little bit,
yeah.
But it should consistently stay right there on your dashboard. And you pick that spot in your dash and then you just keep it coming down and in. Notice how it's not moving around, other than when we get the little bounces here and there.
Yeah, got it.
It's just staying nice and stabilized. That's what the way you want an approach. If you don't have a nice stabilized approach, then abort the landing if you're not feeling right. Don't try to force the airplane down into a situation that you don't want. And a good landing starts with a good pattern. If you don't have you're all off in your pattern, your airspeeds are off in your pattern, your altitudes are off in your pattern, you're going to have a bad landing. I can tell a bad landing way before we get into this, into the landing phase part of it. Okay, so we're coming down, and this is where a lot of people have difficulties. Right here, transitioning from that crab into the, into putting the airplane, left wing down, right rudder pedal, keep that longitudinal axis of the airplane paralleling the runway, and right there, see how you kind of have to feel it out, and you just set it down, no big huge corrections or huge inputs, just a nice steady coming down, and then you go into that flare, and we got hit by a little gust of wind that kind of picked us up. Well, don't overreact and push the nose way down, just ride it out, and then let the airplane, it's coming down, because you're bringing the power back, so let the airplane settle down on its own. Don't try to overcorrect. You just notice how when that gusts of air kind of pushed us up, I didn't push forward.
Right.
I just kept it neutral, kept the longitudinal aircraft of the aircraft, the longitudinal axis of the aircraft paralleling the runway, and then as we settled down and in, kept it going. That tire touched down slightly before the other, and then we came in. And Griffin traffic, this is Cessna 260 Sierra, Quebec, back taxi runway 26, Griffin. Right, like that. And then whenever you're on the controls, I like to see that hand on the throttle as well. So you're Keep a hand on the throttle, one hand on the throttle, one hand on the yoke, unless we're in cruise flight, then you can put that little lock in. But anytime we're either in the pattern, taxiing, anything else, because then that gives you a quicker reaction time. Then once we're clear of the runway, we're going to just go ahead and call clear. Griffith traffic, this is Cessna 260 Sierra, Quebec, clear of runway 26, Griffith. And I have the airplane once again.
All right.
I'll put it in here and park it for us, and we should be good to go. All right, and then for our shutdown, okay, we don't just turn the key off like in a car. So we got our landing, airplane after landing, wing flaps up, the carburetor heats on, all that good stuff. Secure the airplane, parking brake set, we just did that. Radio electronic equipment off. So this is coming off.